so we'll get underway. If they do appear, then those of you who are unfortunate enough to be standing will at least have somewhere to sit. First of all, I'll get the housekeeping out the way. There are 5 emergency exits from here, 2 on that side, 3 on this side. There are no fire alarm drills planned for this evening. If it goes off, it's going to be a real thing. The assembly point is in the car park in front. Toilets are outside, that side, turn left, and then on the left-hand side. Thank you all for taking the time to attend this evening's meeting, and also to those who are unable to attend this evening, but are following us via the live link we have running. There is a live link running, and that's being streamed onto Facebook at the moment. Just as out of interest, at the whole year meeting, we had some 2,000 people follow that online. So, whilst there's only a limited number of you here this evening, we anticipate there's a large number following. The evening will run with a brief presentation by Mick Robbins on the current position with pay claims for 2018 and the employer's final offer on the 2018-2019 deal. There will then be brief speeches from my colleagues on the stage, and I'll introduce them. On the far right is Terry Keefe from Unite, Andy Woolley from the National Education Union, Marina Moje from the NASEWT, Sam Cooper from JCSA Association of Head Teachers, and Mick Robbins, my Vice Chair from Prospect. I'm Terry Renner, the Chair of JCSA Prospect. There will then be open to questions from the floor. There will be a roving microphone going around. Whilst there are some unions who are not represented here this evening, they pass their apologies and send the message that we all stand together on this issue. So their absence is not an indication that they are not with us. There are people here this evening who are not directly affected by these proposals, and I ask they respect the questions will only be taken from those staff who will be affected, as this is their meeting, and your opportunity to ask these. We will also be taking questions from those who are online. Once the question session is finished, there will be a brief summary before we close this meeting. We anticipate this happening between 7:30 and 8 p.m. this evening. Before handing over to Mick, you may be aware that there was a meeting between unions and the SEB today. We were hoping to have something tangible to bring to you. Unfortunately, all we can say is that the SEB have listened to our concerns, they've taken them back, and we'll be discussing them at their next meeting on the 5th of November. At this point, I'll now hand over to Mick, who will carry out a brief presentation. Thank you.
Right, good evening everybody. Been having a little bit of problems with this computer as it belongs to the hotel, so please forgive me if it goes a bit pear-shaped. However, the presentation is intended to give you an idea of where all the unions are together. We are standing together on this point, and we are absolutely united when it comes to the offers we've had in relation to pay. So we are here to talk about pay. Pay for 2018 particularly, but pay for 2019 as well, because that's part of the offers that are being made. Different unions have different claims, all of which in one form or another are based on RPI. And all the unions want to do is to protect the standard of living of those they represent. I'm going to talk about the civil service claim because it's the lowest of the offers that have been made, and it's because it's the area I come from. But I don't think there's any difference in the principles from many of the other offers. We made a request to the employer at the end of 2017, according to agreed protocols for the 2018 pay round. We asked for 3.1% RPI. We also actually asked for another 1% to try and bring us on from the below RPI we've had time and again. that particular part of it we've dropped because we recognise it's difficult times, and we are trying to move forward with this, but we are sticking with the 3.1%. That was dealt with way back at Christmas time. The employer's offer was a 2-year deal, 2018 with 1.1%, sorry, non-consolidated. 2019, they offered 1% consolidated and 1% non-consolidated, with 0% for those earning over £100,000. This offer came to us on the 10th of August, and the total increases in pensionable pay by the end of 2019 is actually around 2%. Not the figures circulated publicly by the employer on the 10th of August, which states 2018 and 2019 totals 4.1%. Regardless of how you do the maths for this, the information is untrue. This offer is not a total increase of 4.1%. All unions have offers which fail to meet their claims. And the employer gave us 3 explanations for this offer. The first being the need to address issues of equal pay for work of equal value between employee groups. The second, limited budget available to fund the pay offers. And the third was pay compatibility with local and UK markets. I'm going to take these in turn. The need to address the issue of equal pay for work of equal value between employee groups. Pay differentiation is recognised to exist through the state's employees from pay group to pay group, and indeed within pay groups. Staff side has long agreed that there is a significant piece of work to be done to move from the current position to a point where all staff receive equal pay for work of equal value. Further, the unions have agreed that they will work with the employer towards a solution which is open, transparent and equitable. The employer attempted to bring equity with the WFM proposal, which was found to be neither transparent nor fair, and was soundly rejected by staff. Staff side has seen nothing relating to the work behind the current pay offer, which apparently evaluates jobs. Until such information is provided, it can only be assumed that the detailed work required to evaluate jobs has not been done, and the differential in the figures relating to pay rises have been created by some other means. There's been no consultation on this important change in terms and conditions in accordance with agreed policies. The pay differentiation between pay groups does not deal with individual job values, but uses a broad brush approach which may exacerbate problems in some areas. The limited budget available to fund the pay offers. Page 168 of the annex to the MTFP edition for 2017-19 shows clear central contingency allowances for pay and workforce through 2017. I think you need to turn that one off. Push it and push the red button and hold it down. Okay. Hopefully that will help. So, where were we? The MTFP shows central contingency allocations for pay and workforce through 2017, 18 and 19. So money was put aside for pay increases for the workforce in 2018. And it shows £12.3 million. Page 25 of that document shows staff costs for 2018 to be in the region of £371.8 million. So the £12.3 million would more than cover a 3.1% cost of living rise for all state staff. That's about £11.5 million, while still allowing some flexibility for increment rises due to staff, etc. And of course, we're all aware that £47 million was put aside for WFM. If there's no money available, where has this allocated money gone? Let's look at pay comparability with the local and UK markets. The unions have seen no evidence of work done to compare the value of a Jersey post with that of the UK. Neither has it seen any work done to transfer that comparison from the UK pay structures to suit Jersey conditions. Pay for work of equal value is an agreed goal for both the employer and the union. Evaluation of posts is a complex and technical issue with numerous examples of models available to undertake the work, gender for change, pay, and such like. Examples of the problems which can be caused when changes are made arbitrarily can be seen by the impact that HSSD changes in November of 2017 has caused. The workforce resoundingly rejected WFM, and following the ballots, that offer was withdrawn by Charlie Parker. It is of huge concern that throughout the workforce, changes in terms and conditions are connected to the current offers for pay, which, whilst it's argued by the employer are not the same, significantly reflect the T's and C's connected within WFM. One of two things has happened. Pardon me. Either a significant amount of evaluation work has been undertaken by the employer without consultation with the unions to establish equal pay for work of equal value. Or this is an attempt to introduce the T's and C's contained within WFM by stealth. Changes in the T's and C's need negotiation with the unions. That is the current method agreed by the employer and the unions. The methods currently being adopted by the employer are no better than that arbitrary changes made by HSSD in November 2017 and are likely to lead to significant conflict. Staff side has written to the employer to establish the grounds for the differential pay awards. It's expected that the awards must be based on robust comparison with the local and UK markets, which is backed by recognised, respected and tested evaluation methods. Work done by Terry, our chairman, has provided evidence to the employer that genuine comparison with posts in Jersey's private sector has been done by the union, and the results are startlingly higher in terms of salary than the employer has been stating. And those earning over £100,000 may be considered to be in a fortunate position and possibly considered by some of less fortunate islanders to be able to afford a pay freeze. However, the post concerned are pay high salaries for good reasons. The individuals are often very specialist or highly educated and frequently in short supply, probably because significantly more money may be found in the private sector doing similar work. Those who are in post deserve respect from the employer, as do all staff. The union would argue that those earning over £100,000 should not be singled out. In fact, they should be treated with the same respect owed to all staff and should be paid in line with RPI. This is another example of an intended deterioration in the standard of living for members. Whilst this meeting is about pay, I want to briefly talk about the target operating model. The employer wishes to introduce the target operating model, TOM. This is a very significant change to the organisational and administrative structure of the State of Jersey. That is within the remit of the Chief Executive Officer, and staff side has agreed to work with that process, as it was presented by Charlie Parker at the beginning of 2018, to ensure that such things as the organisational change policy, etc., are followed. Now, it would seem to us that it would be prudent that when an employer wishes to make significant changes, that employer would attempt to firstly placate the workforce in every other way, and secondly, to provide no distractions or reasons for the desired changes to be derailed. The SEB has provided staff with very significant reasons to withdraw goodwill in the TOM process. Mainly, less than RPI pay offers, suddenly and inexplicably introducing unnegotiated changes to T's and C's within TOM, showing a lack of respect towards staff by failing to deal with pay in a timely manner, introducing differential pay without proper negotiation with unions, failing to explain how the differential in pay between pay groups was arrived at, circulating inaccurate information in relation to the pay offers. Staff side are extremely concerned that the SEB is whipping up a perfect storm by taking its chosen route. So let's just remind ourselves of one of these pay offers and the ballot that was held. Civil Service held a pay ballot. 95.4% rejected that offer. Now, we're not the first people to have a problem with our employer. In 1913, these good ladies were garment workers in New York, and they went on strike for better working conditions, and they wanted some concessions, including a 54-hour working week, time and a half for overtime, and 5 days holiday per year. Now, the numbers are different, but there's a lot there that sounds very familiar, isn't there? The Chief Executive Officer is an individual who tells over 6,000 workers what to do. Unions are the other way around. And whilst nobody wants to strike, it's up to you who decides what happens. You who decide what stance the representatives must take. You who decide what bargaining power the negotiators have. So when we send out our ballot papers and Civil Service go out tomorrow, other unions have either done so already or are about to follow suit shortly. We call on you to vote for an option that empowers your representatives. Give us the tools to do the job. Show us an endorsement for stronger negotiation. Now, as Terry mentioned, I believe Bob Keane, the Civil Service prospect negotiator, apologises for not being here. He changed a national meeting around to attend the Holy meeting, but found that that meeting then clashed with this meeting. But he has sent some words that he's asked me to read out. And if any of you know Bob, I'm not going to do justice to this, but I'll do my best. The employer says it doesn't believe we are fairly reflecting your view. They somehow believe you think continual uncertainty, prevarication, and a lack of any plan is something you are content with. They believe you rejected WFM because we, the trade unions, misled you. They believe the offer for 1% is fair. We credit you with more. Your representatives are civil servants, they're in education, they're in health, they're in every area of public service. And they know why you defeated WFM. It was not simply for the reason that it did not provide equal pay for work of equal value. It was because it did not recognise the value of your work at all. It was not simply because its foundations were crumbling from the minute the numbers were cooked in a desperate attempt by the states to try and raise the WFM rep to the surface. It was because you understood the apparent quick fix was actually a slow decline a race to the bottom that continues with this offer now. Your trade union representatives from across all public services have tried to reason with the employer, an employer who, until earlier today, did not enter the room. An employer that sent its messengers not to negotiate, but to say no more money, and repeat that mantra like a broken record by a tuned. We know the money is there. It's in the financial plan. It was published for everyone to see. We know, you know it's there, yet it is us who are accused of misleading you when the employer simply continues its pretense. And when they finally realise you've rumbled them, finally realise the mask has slipped, and you know they've misled you, they threaten to impose the deal. We have reached the point when the message back needs to be clear. That it isn't your trade union, it isn't your trade union reps, it's you they are forcing into a race to the bottom. It's you that are being unfairly treated. It's you that deliver the service to the residents of Jersey, and it's you that now needs to stand together and reject this attack. You've rejected the pay deal, an incredible majority, close to 100 civil servants, but they still are not listening. And we need to make them listen. We need to make the message loud and clear. And we need to make the message bluntly and directly. We do not need to be treated like this. We will say to the State of Jersey, to the State Employment Board and to their messenger, we will not be part of your managed decline. We will not be part of your race to the bottom. And we will vote yes to industrial action because you have given us no alternative. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Sam Cooper. I'm a head teacher. I've been a school leader in Jersey for 15 years and I've worked for the State of Jersey for nearly 25 years. I'm also the local branch president of the Jersey Association of Head Teachers and I'm joined this evening by colleagues, national colleagues from the UK, Liz Salisbury and Rob Kelsall from our national executive. The NAHT represents 29,000 school leaders from across the country, and our national body are very aware of the challenges that schools face, schools and school leaders in Jersey are facing, and they're putting their weight behind us. Head teachers and deputy head teachers in Jersey are usually a cooperative, reserved body. We've not been prone to air our disputes in public, preferring to work through challenges behind closed doors. But we've had enough. We've had enough of being taken for granted and working without our roles being understood by our employer. We've had enough of the increased bureaucracy and accountability in schools without being provided with the appropriate time to respond. We've had enough of the changing landscape in education without being provided with the tools to do this important work. We've had enough of trying to protect and enhance the well-being of our staff in our schools without anybody considering our roles. We've had enough of being told year after year that, despite our important work and the fact that educational standards in Jersey are rising, we're not worth the cost of living again, and again, and again. Okay, I've been instructed to move on over here. Okay, thank you. I don't normally have a microphone for school assembly, so I might move away from this. What we haven't had enough of, though, is trying to further raise the academic and social standards and outcomes of the amazing children and young people whom we support. Our commitment to them is resolute. We have the highest of ambitions for the children of Jersey, and that will never change, even through these difficult times. Head teachers want to support the state's common strategic policies, allowing our children to flourish both emotionally and academically. The reality is that many of these strategies will rely on school leaders to deliver. It costs a lot of money to run our schools, and so it should, because the value of what schools do is priceless. But year after year, we have ever-increasing demands on us. Year after year, there are more children in our schools than ever before with ever-increasing needs and challenges: language, behavioural, emotional, academic. Year after year, we're being asked to do a heck of a lot more than we've ever been asked to do before, with a heck of a lot less. And with recognised pressures on other agencies like health and social care out there than ever before, schools and school leaders are having to pick up more and more. These extra expectations mean that the cost of doing the job is going up faster than the education budget as a whole. The extra expectations should be reflected in the way school leaders' roles are valued and recognised as important by the employer. The current pay offer does not cover the expectation placed upon us. Teaching is a job that allows you to shape lives and determine futures. But we also need to think about our own future as a profession, and we want talented graduates to think that teaching is the best future that they can imagine. Recruitment into senior positions in schools has hit a crisis point. There is little to no motivation to move into senior teaching roles because of the associated pressures. It's just not worth the hassle. Additionally, the very minimal financial difference between a senior teaching role and a deputy head is a contributing factor to the paucity of applicants. The Education Department, with whom we have an excellent relationship, is working with our union and our partner teaching unions to make recommendations to resolve this, but with no committed resources to fund any suggestions, we feel the exercise will be futile. State's human resources can't even commit to attend the Education Review Board meetings. That is how important they are to them. Equally, resources into further developing school leaders is being pulled. Where will that leave us professionally and indeed our schools? The fundamentals for me in school leadership are about treating my team with fairness, with equity, with dignity and honesty, and challenging them to be the very best that they can be. All of them. Staff in our schools work ridiculously long hours. They don't do it because they have to do it. They do it because they want to give our children the very best start that they can. Everyone on the team has a role to play. You have to build relationships. You have to invest in relationships. But this also has to come from the employer. I'm aware of teaching assistant colleagues around the island who are physically and verbally abused day after day. Their reward for showing such unwavering commitment to the children they're supporting? Their reward? To earn in a month what recently appointed consultants will earn in a day. Their reward are what... Their reward, a 1% pay offer. That's a cut in real terms. Their reward is an insult. If we lose the goodwill and commitment of good people in our schools, schools will not be able to operate. In common with other professions such as nurses, if we worked the hours that we're contracted to and didn't give the extra time freely, standards in Jersey schools would inevitably fall. You would be hard-pressed to find a school leader in Jersey working less than the 54 hours a week as a minimum and not working through the so-called holidays. Now, we're not expecting people to get their violins out and say, poor you, because we know that's the job and we're committed to it. But at least let's be recognised for the work we're doing that simply is not reflected in our pay, our terms and conditions. The perfect scenario to improve the situation for school leaders would be to work alongside the employer to resolve the issues that are plaguing our profession, and detracting us from our core purposes. If we were in the UK, a very significant part of what we do day in, day out, is undertaken by designated others. School business managers deal with human resources, budgets. They have safeguarding officers who attend child protection meetings and manage all the extensive processes and procedures around this, including leading on early help. The introduction of Jersey Premium, whilst a great opportunity for our pupils, is an additional role within schools, again with budgeting requirements, careful planning and monitoring accountability systems. In the UK, a school bursar would often take the lead on these roles. In Jersey, those important responsibilities are school leaders' responsibilities, and there should be recognition of this. This is not unnecessary workload, but workload that isn't acknowledged by the employer. That's a fact, it's not a myth. The landscape of schools has changed significantly. Education in Jersey has changed significantly. There is no doubt that the rapidity of reforms has had a detrimental impact on head teacher workload. Increased compliance expectations, combined with the increasingly high-stakes environment created by the inevitable publication of school reviews, which will result in school league tables in Jersey, and head teachers being faced with the challenges of having to raise standards while implementing significant curriculum reforms and attempting to do all of this with their hands tied by the paucity of funding available to us, makes our jobs very, very difficult. We are doing many tasks that are not recognised in our terms and our conditions and our contracts. But that's fine. We'll respond to these challenges because of their critical significance that they have on children's lives. But let's be rewarded appropriately and the difficulties that we face recognised. And I'm not talking about the laughable supposed well-being agenda. It's a joke, and actually makes school leaders feel even more undervalued. It's just corporate rhetoric and offers no support whatsoever. So what has been offered by the employer to support school leaders? Yet another pay cut, in real terms. For only 1 year since 2008 have we received a pay award above RPI. Over this period, our pay has reduced by 11% against RPI. This is set against the backdrop of the 2010 Tribal Report, commissioned by the State of Jersey as part of the Comprehensive Spending Review, which indicated in 2010 that school leaders are paid up to 8% less than their London counterparts. The letter from our Chief Executive Officer, rejecting our pay claims, said that our salaries compare favourably with comparators in the UK. Well, their commissioned report would say otherwise, as with the June 2018 Index of Average Earnings, indicating that since 2008, school leaders' pay awards have been between 12 and 18% below the private sector, depending on the metric that you use. So this begs the question, what significant work was actually done to arrive at their offer? when they say pay comparability work has been undertaken. We're told that there is no more money. Well, surely that depends on who or what the states prioritise as being important. There is political choice around investment in people. There is political choice about less pay for public servants whilst there are greater demands on them. I'll leave you with a couple of thoughts. What's the direction and identity of Jersey and the states of Jersey? What sort of relationship does the employer want with his public servants, committed public servants? Are we living in a unique environment where the employer has a caring and invested relationship with the employee, or are we sleepwalking into being a soulless, autocratic local authority, losing sight of what used to make Jersey special? Despite not being valued, and at the detriment of our own well-being, head teachers and deputy head teachers have, and always will, put Jersey's children first. Thank you very much.
Other than to endorse everything that Sam has said. I'm Marina Mosher, I'm the local negotiating secretary for the NASUWT, the Teachers Union. Nothing like being totally off put and distracted. Right, I'm going to be very brief because Sam has mentioned a lot of the things that I would have mentioned. At the start of this pay round, the NASUWT didn't just pluck a figure out of thin air. We submitted a 20-page evidence-based claim. We've never had a formal response to this. I'm just going to share a little bit of this evidence with you, amongst other things, this evening. Teaching is the lowest paid graduate profession in Jersey. After 12 years, a teacher will be earning £51,017, and they all have degrees, and lots of them masters. Not much, is it really? Over the last decade, we've lost over £20,000 in below inflation pay rises, and pay is reduced by more than 8% in real terms. Aldi supermarket graduates have a starting salary on their graduate training programme of £42,000 a year in the UK. Who'd want to teach? Teacher recruitment in the UK has reduced by 62% since 2011, so we've got a much smaller pool to recruit from. The UK has just opened the taps to improve pay terms and conditions. Teachers there, main scale teachers, have just been given 3.5%. How can Jersey expect to recruit quality teachers from such a reduced pool, whilst eroding the competitiveness of teacher pay? We will need more teachers, not less, when the demographics say there will be an 8% increase in pupil numbers. The price of an average house in Jersey is £573,000. 11 times the salary of an experienced teacher. That's at the top of the pay scale. Electricity is 16% more than the UK, and gas is 300% more expensive. Says it all really, doesn't it? If you were an investment banker in the UK, you'd be starting with a new degree on 41,000. As I said, who would want to teach? The draft budget said that next year there'll be a 53 million operating surplus, yet the Chief Minister told the Institute of of directors that there would be a £30 million deficit that will have to be paid for with job losses. Where's the truth? States members, who also tell us, affording to go RPI in their pay, have an independent pay review body. Teachers have asked for this, but had it dismissed out of hand. What's good enough for States members should be good enough for States employees. And I'm just going to finish by saying that it's very interesting that a number of teachers have contacted me to say they can't attend this evening as they're doing parents' evenings, discos, bingos, all that type of activity. It will be sad when the goodwill goes, but it will go.
Just doing this to make them do the technology. Hi everybody, my name's Andy Woolley. I'm the Regional Secretary of the National Education Union. And there might be one or two people thinking, what's the National Education Union? 12 months ago, on September the 1st last year, the Association of Teachers and Lecturers and the National Union of Teachers merged to form the fourth biggest teacher union. In this region, we have more members, that's the South West and the Channel Islands, we have more members than, for instance, important unions like ASLEF have nationally. But I feel that it's important to come here to support you, and have been doing for some time on these issues, because I think what is happening to you is a real injustice. And I want to say, looking out at you, and I wish you could all come and see that, we don't all rush up at once. Wow, because when somebody organises a meeting like this, you always think, are people going to turn up? And then all those shrinking violets go onto the back row and leave lots of seats here, and it's like 10 to, and we're all thinking, the camera's going to show big empty spaces. And then you kept pouring in, and if you can't see, there's people standing out there in the foyer listening to us. I think that's fantastic, because it shows to people here, there are politicians here, there are people who have been advising the SEB, that people really do care. This is not just a load of trade union officials sitting in office thinking, how can we stir up some trouble? I know, I'll go for a few days to sunny Jersey and say that people are unhappy. You're telling them by coming here that you are unhappy. And as Marina said, lots of members who can't get here, and as Mick said, we'll be watching on the live stream, or we'll pick up on this later. I'm not going to say a lot about education, because that's the penalty of coming last. My two colleagues have said a lot. I'll mention a few examples. But I can tell you that our members are angry, as you, I'm sure, are angry. Somebody suggested, well, you probably know me, that I shouldn't say anything provocative tonight. Well, I don't think it's provocative to say that all of you, all of us here, are underpaid, are undervalued, and in most cases probably overworked. And that is totally unacceptable. It's not acceptable that in a pay dispute like this should be the first time today that we met the actual employer, the SEB. It's not acceptable that an official of the States should send slightly different but very similar letters to all our members containing facts that weren't true, saying to our members that if we took strike action we would damage the education service. I would say to you, taking money out of the education budget last year to fund the teachers' pay rise was much more damaging to the education service than what we might do if we took strike action. I know that money was taken out of other budgets as well. Since I've been here just yesterday, I've been into 4 schools and talking to people, because, like I say, I don't want to speak for people when I don't know what they feel. And people are saying to me, we have to do something. They're saying enough is enough. It is time, this time, that we actually do something about it if we don't get what is our just deserves. I talked to a head teacher this morning who said that in that school there are 3 teachers who went to school here in Jersey, born and bred, went to school in Jersey, and were inspired to go to the UK to train and to become a teacher, and have come back here and teach. And they've been here some time, they're in their 30s, and they cannot afford, as a teacher, better paid than many of you, to buy a house. And they are really upset, and they are thinking, have I made the right decision? They're demoralised. We know, we've talked to teachers, a number of people who are leaving teaching, who love teaching, but feel that they can go to the finance sector, or they can go somewhere else, or they can go back to the UK. Not everybody feels that when they come here. One of the schools I've been to, the rep told me, oh, we've got somebody who arrived in September, and she said, why should I go on strike? I'm getting a lot more than I would get if I'd started teaching in the UK. And she said in the meeting of members, Andy, what do I say to her? And one of the teachers there did the job for me, because he said, I'll tell you what you should say to her. I thought like that 6 years ago when I came here, and now I know the difference, because my standard of living has been eroded on every one of those 6 years. And now I wish I hadn't believed what I was being told. That's after 6 years. Today, some of us went to a school, and somebody said, I came here believing that this was the promised land 2 years ago, and now wish I hadn't. I wish I could go back, actually, because I got some money to move here. I'd have to pay that back, and I can't afford it. But I made a mistake coming here. That's really, really dispiriting, because there are really good things about Jersey, but if people are saying that about pay, then that is putting them off. You are not getting the teachers and other specialist workers that you need. But the good news is, not just the turnout here. I've been coming here for 17 years to represent teachers in a variety of ways, and this is the first time that all the unions in the public sector have got together to say enough is enough, and to speak with the same voice. What we said to the SEB is, we've all got our little bits of pay claims and things we want to do, but there is a bottom line, and the bottom line is that you negotiate with us properly, which you haven't been doing up to now. The bottom line is that we don't have any unconsolidated pay deals, and the bottom line is that nobody has a worse standard of living as a result of a pay award which is below inflation. Those things can be common to us all, whatever other things we want to do with our pay. And that message went across, I think, very loud and clear today to the SEB. We need them to talk to us properly. We need them not to come out with all this stuff that they've come out with for years, that it's wonderful here, it's a lovely place to live. I'm sorry, but you can't eat sunshine and you can't eat scenery. They talk about things are better in the UK. We heard today, teachers pay a lot more tax, rather workers pay a lot more tax. Well, I can tell you that teachers in the UK, the ordinary classroom teachers, the people who got more pay this year than is being offered here, and it's not got any unconsolidated element, they pay the same tax rate as here. In those 17 years I've been coming here, your taxes have gone up, and in the UK they have gone down. And people seem to forget that. Some of the people, perhaps who've been here a long time, are still thinking this is the days of Bergerac. You know, and it's a lovely place to come and live, and you can all, you all pay no tax, and it's wonderful. I think in those days it was only Charlie Hungerford who paid no tax. So we were also told today that the SEB, one member said, but I think on behalf of them all, and I think it's very genuine, that they appreciate what our members do. And I said, I can believe that, you do. But if you appreciate it, then you've got to do something about it. You've actually got to pay them as if you appreciate them. Because that's the only way that you can show that appreciation. We've been told that over the years. Now you have to do something about it. So what do we need to do? Well, we're one of the unions that will ballot. I hope we won't need to take action and that we get some response before that. But if we do, we can do. I think we need to show it in other ways. I think it would be good to have some form of march or demonstration beyond a meeting like this. But what you need to do is you need to go back and tell your colleagues the facts, the people who couldn't be here. Get over some of the myths that were in those letters that came in. You need to explain the facts to members of the public, your friends, your families, and you need to make sure that what we're doing tonight and what we're doing this morning continues. We need to stay united. In many ways, I like to think I'm a modern trade unionist, but I'm also a bit of an old-fashioned trade unionist. And I was always brought up by my dad and other people to know two slogans. One is that an injury to one is an injury to all. And that's why we must stick together. And also, a very famous one, united we stand, divided we fall. This is a brilliant example of being united. Let's stay united and let's make sure all space workers are fairly paid.
Terry Keefe of Unite. We have manual people, uniform services, past service members and civil service. So that's our constituency. I think I want to start by busting the myth of money. Jersey's affluent. The islands have got financial reserves of £890 billion. It's got a stabilisation fund of £50 million. It underspent last year by £17 million. So that's without taking into account other things. I'll come to that later. Now we all know we've got a new head of the States, and his package is very nice. It's very substantial. And by the way, he doesn't have to wait 10 years for residency. We know there's plenty, they won't tell us. There's been six new heads appointed. They're all on very good salaries. I don't know about their residency, we'll have to find out. There's the money there for that. They've employed consultants, as colleagues have mentioned, on up to £1,500 a day. £1,500 a day, people will kill for that a week. So, I have no belief that there is no money there, but there's more money. And by the way, on those people and those appointments, they've already spent £9 million. They say that there's a structural deficit going forward. Well, in the 2015 to 2018 plan, shepherded by Mr. Gorst, that should have been addressed. It should have already been balanced. So why is it still there? Why have we now got to do it all again? I don't understand that. On top of that, John Lafondre, only this week, announced that there's going to be job losses next year. In the same breath, we find out there's 600 vacancies that haven't been filled. How many jobs are going, for goodness sake, if you've got 600 vacancies and you're going to make redundancies? It doesn't add up. None of the figures adds up, none of the rhetoric adds up. Those 600 vacancies, by the way, means they haven't spent 600 lots of salary. That's about £18 million. The money's there. I do not believe in this poverty line. It is not true. In their new policy, which is a policy, and by the way, unfunded, so how they know they've got the deficit, I don't know, because they haven't funded their policy yet. They're going to create a sustainable, vibrant economy and a skilled workforce. They want to reduce income inequality by giving you a below-inflation pay rise. I'm working on that one, I'll get there. And they want to improve the standard of living. Again, I'm struggling. Because you've had about a decade of below-inflation pay awards. And the proposal is below inflation. So, you know, I'm really struggling with everything I've heard. And how there can be job losses When there's unfilled jobs, I don't know. But we're waiting. And I think we've had workforce modernisation, we've now had Tom, and I think the SEP meet on the 5th of November, and I hope they've got a bonfire for them all. So let's look at what they've offered. They offered, in their thing, which they sent out without consultation, I'll just take one lot. Let's take the manual energy from waste workers, 4.6% this year. Well, that's brilliant. They're all giving it, yo, we've got a brilliant pay award. You go into a meeting to talk to them, oh, well, we didn't mean that. We actually meant it might be worth overall that. So they've now set an expectation they don't want to meet. You have the civil service, where they added up 1 and 1, and a bit of a temporary 1 and 1, makes 4. So, I think, you know, we need a bit more back to school. You head teachers need to talk to these people. The state salary budget is about £360 million. So an average award at the cost of living would be about £11 million, just over. They can afford that. And with what they propose for next year, which should have been RPI in September, which is 4.3, that's about 16 million. So both of those together, bearing in mind they've got the 33.6 million, and this is for the teachers now, 33.6 million, you add 12 and 15, I think it comes under that, and yet they can't afford it. I'm baffled, I really am. So I think they need to look at these things, especially when they can spend 30 million on a hospital and you haven't put a brick down yet. So what do we do about it? Well, I mean, I think somebody said about this being a lovely island, and I come across and it is a lovely island, and it's got a lovely way of life. But you've got to hang on to it because it's under threat. And I think we need to increase the public awareness about the fundamental impact of the proposed changes. Because whilst there is planned changes to the way they run services, which will impact on staff numbers, it also gives you poorer services. You are not going to get what you have. There will be higher unemployment, so they'll be collecting less tax, and you might have to pay out more social money. There'll be unhappy staff, so they'll be less productive. And there's a potential for industrial action. So all in all, we need to make the public aware of this. And we need to get them to become involved. We need them to make sure that they're giving their politicians their view of what they believe and what they want to see the islands provide in the way of services and how they want them to treat their staff. And it wouldn't hurt to write to the Bailiwick Press and the Jersey Evening Post and perhaps let them know what you think, so that they know it's a unified voice and it's about provision of services as well as people getting their salaries. And I think, and as we're providing, all unions start working together to make sure that we make sure this island keeps its uniqueness and you are valued and paid what you deserve.
Thank you all very much. I think you've heard 4 very good, very impassioned speeches from the heart. Speeches that will have touched everybody. Now I'd like to open the meeting to questions. We've organised a roving microphone. Go around. Get my microphone man. And we'll also be taking questions from anyone that's looking forward from online. And I'm getting a thumbs up from the online man at the back. Would you like to indicate any questions by raising your hands?
Andy Cousins, I'm a prospect in the police. Can I just point out, we're looking at they would get this pay rise imposed, which is 1% this year, 1% next year. And we're also looking at a 1% increase in our pension contributions from the 1st of January next year, and another 1% on top of that from the 1st of January 2020, which means your pay packet in 2020, January 2020, will be less than your pay packet today. So please don't let them impose this, please don't. But you'd like the industrial action to go ahead.
Hi there, I'm Sarah Matthews, I'm a nurse at the hospital. I'd just like to say how disappointed I am that there's nobody here representing the nurses tonight.
We do have representatives in Bournemouth Unite representing Jersey Nursing Association. Unfortunately, Kenny McNeil, representing the Royal College of Nursing, has had to leave the island at short notice and was unable to provide an alternative to come up here this evening.
It's just that we've had meetings with Charlie Parker recently and they came to nothing. And, sorry, we are just so frustrated with how we are being treated at the moment, particularly because we want to be paid the same as our allied healthcare professionals, and we're not, and we deserve to be. And I just feel that, okay, Kenny couldn't be there, but there are other RCN or JNA people who could be here and talk on our behalf, because we are so passionate about how we're feeling at the moment, and we just feel that there's no one there to represent us today.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are still dealing with that issue. We have taken the states to JACS, and JACS are waiting for us. We put another proposal to them, and JACS are waiting for them to come back to them on that. So very much it's in hand and it is being dealt with. But yes, it could be better, and yes, it could respect you more.
Can I just say that I think what was great about this morning, and hopefully about this evening, is that we are saying that everybody has to be treated fairly. So if we haven't mentioned individual groups, that's a shame. But you've done it, and other people, if you feel you've not had your voice heard, speak up now, because you have that chance to see that. And that will be heard by the media and by everybody else in the room. So take that opportunity if, unfortunately, we haven't connected you on the platform.
I'm Tina Caldera, I'm a prospect member and a physiotherapist working from the hospital. I just want to say, actually it's not the first time we've all come together, because I sat at Port Regent with a number of people who are all here now, just a few years ago, and we all agreed to stick together. Unfortunately, what the States is very good at is dividing us all up, and that's what they did. So they took us from a position of strength like we are now, and they broke us down and made us fight against each other. And fighting against each other is not going to get us anywhere. We need to stick together, and I'll be really disappointed if tonight comes to nothing and we all divide up again. We need to stick together, support each other and move it forwards.
Hi, I'm John McNichol from JNA, Jersey Nursing Association. I think it's important now we realise that providing we get the democratic mandate from our members across all the unions, how the response is going to look vis-à-vis industrial action. That action has to be A, disruptive, B, coordinated, and it must carry the threat of repetition if we're going to have any impact on this State's Employment Board whatsoever. So people need to realise that should we vote for industrial action, it needs to have teeth. prospect. Have we offered arbitration in this, as part of this process?
We can't offer arbitration. We've asked for arbitration, and that has been rejected because we don't have a non-indemnitive service agreement where arbitration can be unilaterally sought. It can only be gone with agreement of both parties. We've asked for arbitration. The employer has refused it.
Okay, can I just ask another question, please? Would we consider undertaking our own arbitration with an independent?
We would be more than happy to go to arbitration with the employer on this.
No, not with the employer,
well,
but to have a trial arbitration, if you like.
Yeah. Not much point in us going to arbitration to get a decision unless the other party's with us.
I think in just terms of how this looks publicly, if we were to get an independent arbitrator that's done these sort of negotiations before, just to take a representative view of what he thinks the employer's positions are and our position to see where we stand.
Yeah, I think what you're describing here is taking it to a tribunal, employment tribunal, and that is an avenue that's still open to us. An online question now coming. Proves there are people out there.
Oh, hi. I'm Tom Quinn, Executive Officer for JCSA Prospect. First of all, the first comment, I'll sit down so I can read from the screen, but there are a couple of questions. Firstly, Bob King, as Mick and Terry Preston have said, wanted to be here but couldn't, but he also sent an online message. Sorry I can't be here this evening, and thank you to all the members who have gone to the meeting and are watching online. Your support is needed more than ever to secure a fair deal. Make sure you vote, and make sure you vote yes to industrial action. You don't have to clap, you can't. We might be able to. There's two questions that come from a similar vein, and well-phrased questions. They are coming from people on the internet. And by the way, the current estimate is about 650 people joined the meeting. We will get the true figure when we close down the video, but that's nearly doubling the people that are in the room. So a very high participation. And here's the question. The person says, I only have one question. Why do we get told we get paid more than our UK counterparts by someone who is earning more than £100,000 more than the British Prime Minister? Just a little bit more question.
Sorry, just before you get, would anyone on the top table like to answer?
Sorry, Terry, there's just a little bit more and then we can get some feedback. I hope the person who raised the question heard that generous applause because there's welfare about it. But she hasn't finished yet. Our chief executive, I say the person, I'm going to give away who it was. The chief executive's wage is $250,000 or thereabouts. This person has been researching. Mrs. May's current combined salary entitlement is $153,000, according to the latest House of Commons briefing paper for members' pay and expenses and ministerial salaries in 2017 and 2018. But the amount the Prime Minister actually received in the last financial year was $150,000. That is $100,000 less than our Chief Executive's wage. Surely this is hypocrisy at its finest. Yeah, did you want to take a response from that?
Well, I just wanted to say it's clearly because the cost of living in Jersey is so high. He needs that salary.
And there is one more question on a similar theme. Oh, sorry.
I think we're back to maths again, aren't we? And Brexit. I mean, we're leaving Europe. He's left England because he knows where the money is.
The other one is slightly similar theme, but a lot shorter. Where had the funds actually come from to fund the new consultants from the UK? The money that was actually earmarked for wages? Question mark. So the questioner was saying, you know, how come we're spending all these money on new consultants? And is there a possibility that it's coming from the funds earmarked for wages? And that's all the questions at the minute from the internet.
Okay, I don't think there is an answer from us for that second question. Okay, Chris?
Hello there, I'm one of the nurses in the hospital. We've now sat through several meetings of a similar vein, and at every meeting we have said that we want a vote of no confidence in the employer and we want to go to industrial action. When are we actually going to have this action and when are we going to do it?
I'm sure it won't be far away, but I've got to wait for the Jersey Nursing Association reps to come to me and ask for it. But I'm sure it will be soon.
In terms of RCN and RCM, I believe Kenny McNeil is actually working on this at the moment, but as I say, he's unfortunately unable to be here. So we cannot have very, very short notice.
Laundry worker from the General. The question I've got is basically all this money that's supposedly being saved by the states, is it so they can get all these private contractors and outsource to other companies, which is what they did with Parks and Gardens?
I think they've noticed that it doesn't quite work. And if you look at, for example, Group 4 in the ports, they're coming back in-house. So I think they have done it in the past. I think they will be doing it much more going forward.
Chris.
Sorry, he's given the mic to me again. Just another quick one from the internet.
And then the
And then go to the front. Okay, this question is a very perceptive question, reflects the public sector's concerns and desire to do a good job. As a hospital worker, I would find it very difficult to strike. I don't want my patients, clients, service users to suffer. This, to my particular department, will have a detrimental effect on many. How can we ensure a safe strike and ensure no one suffers?
Around the top table to answer on that. Certainly from the staff side perspective, any strike action that's considered subject to the ballot agreeing to this will only be undertaken in consultation with you, the members. We're going to make sure that whatever we do, you are all in favour of and are backing us.
I want to turn that one on its head. Why is the employer treating nurses like this to get them to the point where they feel so demoralised they've got to go on strike? They're the ones that cause the damage, not the nurses. And as my colleague said, I don't think we've ever taken any industrial action which has put lives at risk.
So, you know, this is a real problem for people who are in the public sector. We serve the public. And it's, you know, we don't want to endanger people or let people down. But as I said when I spoke, sometimes enough is enough. And you find ways to take action which doesn't actually endanger people. So, you know, we had, I don't know whether people took strike action over here, but the junior doctors took extensive strike action in the UK. And they did that in a way which didn't endanger people's lives, which didn't endanger urgent and necessary operations and so on and so forth. And they had a very prolonged action. And they thought long and hard about that before they did it. But in the end, they felt they had to do it. And I know my members and the members of the other colleagues who represent people in education feel exactly the same. And I know what our members will do. I know what happens.
is that if they take a day strike action here or there, they actually make that up with the kids. The whole class actually gets back to where they would have been. But they take the action to demonstrate to the public and to parents how strongly they feel about how they're being treated. And I think nurses will have to do something. It's not for me to tell nurses what to do, but they'll have to find some way of doing that if the voice that we're putting forward tonight and that we put forward this morning isn't listened to. I don't think, I hope, nobody in this room wants to take strike action, because what we want is just a just and fair pay deal for everybody so that we can get on with the job of serving the public.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Colin. I work at the 14th Section Jersey General Hospital. I've also worked nights. Many a time have I seen, when I'm doing the lockup, I've seen nurses going down in tears. They're sick and tired. The goodwill is being drained from every single nurse, male, female, and it's actually drained from every other department of Jersey General Hospital. We need to do some sort of industrial action, and this is aimed at the media when you're here. Why is it every morning I wake up and we're striking? No one wants to strike. If we've got to strike, we will strike, but there's other ways. There's two ways of skinning a rabbit. First of all, we hit him with an industrial action, yes, work to rule or something like that. We don't want to strike. Nobody wants to strike. And so anyone coming into hospital, don't worry, there will be people manning there and looking after you. But why is the media always scaremongering every morning that we are going on strike? No one wants to strike. But I think that everybody needs support, especially the nurses, because they're getting screwed big time. Thank you.
I think the point you make is very succinct and is from the heart, and it's something we all agree with.
Hello, my name is Catherine. I'm a nurse at the hospital. I work in intensive care. We offer an all year round service every day. We look after the sickest patients in the Channel Islands. And I suppose my point really is I don't think the media has actually been put out there, the actual offer that we've received. The offer is essentially in the media, I believe, something like everyone's going to get 6% pay rise, and that isn't true. In true terms, we're actually getting a cut in our special duties. So for the last 10 years, I've worked Christmas Day, I've worked nights, we work bank holidays, obviously we offer that service. So the pay deal that we've been offered is actually not taken into account that we're actually getting a pay cut for those special duty hours. Also, we're losing what's called a Halsbury Day, which nurses are entitled to, which we get, I believe, two a year, which are paid as bank holidays, and they're going as well. So with this pay deal, I mean, if people don't vote and we get it, then who's going to work Christmas Day? Who's going to look after those patients that are intubated? Who's going to look after the children that we unfortunately have to look after? These are the big questions that we want, and hopefully, nurses will be heard. Thank you.
Any more questions from the floor? Anyone else would like to speak? Yep. At the front, Chris.
My name's Keith and I'm Treasurer. A letter actually went out to each of the state's members notifying them of what was actually happening. Have we had any feedback from any particular state's member, either supportive or negative against?
I personally have received a number of comments back from states members, all supportive. We believe there is a bulk response being prepared to come back in response to that. I don't know if my colleagues here have had anything other than that. But I have had acknowledgements and I have met with several individual states members at their request following that. Right, what's the front here then?
My name's Bradley, social worker, mental health. I think from what we've heard today, it's quite clear that the Chief Executive of the States and his ever-growing army of consultants hold the workforce of the States of Jersey in utter contempt. And I believe that he will continue to hold us in utter contempt unless we actually show that we are serious in respect of the action that we take. Of course, I hear that we need to maintain life and limb cover, and I fundamentally agree with that. But I don't think that working to rule or having little strikes here and there will be sufficient. I think we need to be organising for a yes vote, organising a strike committee, organising a public rally, and really campaigning hard for at least a one-day all-out general strike. Thank you.
We should have got you a Segway or something.
Hi, it's Tom Quinn again from the internet. We've had a message of support, really, or a message that is coming from the education key workers and support staff. And this individual is saying that these people have exactly the same concerns as nurses in terms of impact if they were to strike. But then they end with 5, 6 very key words, which I think everyone needs to consider carefully. But what else can we do to be heard?
I think you won't influence the executive that work within the states, but what you can influence are the people that you elect. Now, they should be accountable for what is going on, and you as the members of the public and employees should hold them accountable, and if what is going on is their name, don't re-elect them.
What also I think you need to do, I'd go back to what I said, is you need to talk, not just to your workmates, your colleagues, but you need to talk to members of the public, you know, to your neighbours, to your friends, to your family, and get them to do that. One of the things we're doing in the UK at the moment about, although there's been a pay rise, it's not been fully funded, and what we are doing is that schools and parents groups are writing to MPs to say, we feel very strongly about this. We are the electorate, and you know, we are the people who have to deliver this service. And that message needs to come across, not just from you, but it needs to come across from the public as well.
Any further questions?
Yeah, the second one on the internet. Bob King is obviously awake and following carefully, and we'd like to make the following point.
Actually not paying attention to the meeting that he's got with the other members.
Yes, yes, I don't know quite how he's doing that. Action short of a strike leaves members open to bullying and intimidation. This is a position we're being forced into, and we can organise to take strike action without putting patients at risk, but we need to remember that the employer is counting on you doing nothing. The employer is counting on you working to rule or banning overtime because it won't care. Action needs to be swift and decisive.
Okay, any further questions or comments from the floor? Yep, one down the front. Sorry, Chris.
Hello, my name's Nick. I'm representing Customs and Immigration. I think what I wanted to point out was the fact that they say that they haven't got enough money in the pots for us, and yet they, as one of the representatives mentioned, already spent £9.5 million on the consultants that have come over. And in addition to that, they're now paying another £3.5 million to a company in the UK from Westminster, incidentally, or who's working at Westminster, for the change of culture. So happy to throw the money in that direction, and yet they're still saying they haven't got enough money in the pot.
Okay, I think at this stage there being no one further indicating anything, I'll just ask my colleagues up here to have a brief summary, then I'll summarise and close the meeting.
I think I would summarise by saying I think the money's there. I think that's clearly been demonstrated tonight. All we need is for the will to be there. And I think with the changes that they want to make going forward to bring in place a plan for a modern Jersey, they need your goodwill. So give you a decent pay rise and buy that goodwill.
I think you've demonstrated tonight that the strength of feeling. I hope we've demonstrated that we have sound arguments to put forward. Certainly, I think we've all demonstrated that there is a will to go on and get fair pay for you. This apparently has been videoed, and there's going to be a YouTube, so you'll be able to go home and watch it all again. So more importantly, the chief executive apparently is in Argentina. Can somebody please email him a link to the YouTube? And I'll finish with what I said before. United we stand, divided we fall. Let's all stick together, not as the person said there, as happened on the previous occasion, be divided and make sure that we win a proper pay rise.
Yeah.
Well, teachers can't teach without teaching assistants, administrators, civil servants in the education department. Nurses can't operate without porters. The reason I haven't stood tonight is because I'm undergoing medical treatment, so I've seen firsthand how hard you all work, and the porters in particular. Unless we all work together, we're not going to achieve anything. So, to echo my colleagues, we do need to stand together.
Yeah, and whilst perhaps the nurses haven't been represented here this evening, we are resolutely with them, and they are resolutely with us, and that's certainly been the context of every meeting that I've attended over the last 2 years. As I said, head teachers, deputy head teachers, we're not prone to put ourselves forward like this, but enough is enough. We've absolutely had enough of being disrespected year after year after year. So we've drawn a line in the sand.
I would just like to say thank you to you for coming out tonight, which I know Terry's going to do as well, but the reason I want to say that is because you have reflected back to us the concerns that we have. The concerns that we've stood at the lectern and spoken to you about have in every case been agreed by you, and you understand the problems that we're facing. So when we say we need you to act now, we couldn't be more serious. We really do. So I would echo what you've been asked. Talk to your colleagues, talk to your friends, talk to members of the public. Tell them, make them understand where we are at the moment and the problems we're facing, and then make sure you get those ballot papers returned. Thank you very much.
Before closing the meeting, I've got a brief summary and resume for you to think about. A number of questions have been asked and responses to these given. We hope everyone now has sufficient information to enable you all to make informed decisions when being asked to vote on this important matter by your various unions. Some unions are opening ballots on industrial action in the next few days. And for those of you who receive these ballot papers, we urge you to vote yes and protect your futures. For those of you who will receive ballots in due course, again, we urge you to carefully consider how you vote in these. As a group united with common threats, workforce modernisation was rejected by an overwhelming majority of you. It is accepted a small number of staff benefited from this and decided to accept the proposal as it brought them to where they should have been anyhow. As a united workforce, once again, we can challenge the inherent unfairness of the current pay final offers that have been placed before us and make the strength of our feelings known to the employer. The public sector is under more threat from within than it has been for many years, and it is important everyone remains united to counter this. We are all committed to providing the best service to the people of this island that we can, many of whom are either our family or friends. And we want to ensure a legacy of a lasting public sector that will provide good and effective service going forward for our children, our grandchildren and future generations, to keep Jersey as the home we all want to live and work in. Irrespective of issues that are unique to individual groups, there is a common theme running throughout this process. That is a total lack of fairness, professionalism and respect being shown to us. The Chief Executive has been on record as saying, the staff, you, are this organisation's greatest assets. Every asset needs to be respected and maintained. Whilst we originally had hopes of a positive industrial actions culture change when the new regime came in, this has yet to materialise, and it can be argued we've been seeing the complete opposite. Staff are feeling demoralised, undervalued and disrespected throughout this current process, and the remedy for this lies solely with the SEB, who have the opportunity to pull a looming disaster back from the brink. Nobody wants to strike and cause the levels of disruption this would result in. We just want to be treated with the respect we deserve and have the work we do acknowledged properly. We do not want to be continually treated as scapegoats for the effects of management experiments or a lack of proper planning and organisation. Please consider carefully how you vote in your respective ballots, as the outcome of these will determine your futures. Thank you all for your time this evening and attending.
Can we just have a show of hands for industrial action?
It would be a purely indicative show. Industrial action ballot has to take a formal process, but yeah, maybe a good thing to actually show those from the employer's side here how strong the feeling actually is. Yeah, okay. We'll ask for a show of hands for everyone that's going to be supporting industrial action. There's a lot of hands up.